Thanks for listening to the NVTV podcast, produced by Nequa Media.
Welcome to this episode of the NVTV podcast. I'm Rhea Smith, and on today's show, we'll be covering how it's National Bookstore Month and the coffee house that we had 2 Fridays ago. Thank you, Mrs. VanMilligen, for being here, and thank you, Ruth Lima, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me.
So can you kind of explain kind of like how you came up with the idea for the coffee house and kind of like why it was planned?
Well, we've been doing the coffee house now for 9 years, and a big part of that is that Mr. Bodwell, the LMC director here at Main Campus, is a poet and a big fan of poetry like me, and I teach poetry here, so we collaborated and started to do just kind of like a production of Poetry Month, where we kind of sprinkle the buildings with poetry activities, and then we have our larger event, which is the coffee house.
Yes, and I personally loved how we got to drink coffee and eat the food, and also listen to people's poetry and monologues. And how do you think that people come up with that idea of what to enunciate to the world?
I think through poetry, right? Poetry to me, I explain this to my poetry students, it's just kind of like snapshots of the human experience. And I think we turn towards our arts in all ways to just kind of share our experiences so that we're not so isolated in our feelings about this life in this world. And the kids, you know, that present their original work, they kind of showed us that at the coffee house. Like we had everything ranging from some mental health stuff to just confidence stuff to relationships, which always show up.
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it.
Yes. So what was your favorite part about the coffee house, Ruth?
Probably that it felt natural, like I didn't feel like I was forced to be there, and like just being like able to snack on something and listen, like I felt comfortable.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like it's not just that you have to create something, like you could take something that's already been done and make it yours. So I kind of feel like that aspect of like inspiration more so than just creation. There's like a definite line. And I feel like a lot of people did that and they did it well. And you know, you didn't have to be alone. You could have partners, you could have...
And we had a blend of music performers with the poetry this year, which I thought was a healthy balance.
Yes, it definitely was. And I definitely feel like, especially due to this month, I think that books and reading help people to get the idea and to just be able to perform it. And I think that some people are naturally gifted. They can create a monologue and they can go out there and present it. But I definitely feel like the inspiration starts with things that have been done before, like plays and playwrights that have this idea, kind of like the performance we had, Guys and Dolls, you know? And I just think books, especially, are such like a big inspiration when people need that like push to kind of find something and make it their own, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who doesn't like a good story?
Yeah.
Even if you can't write a good story, you appreciate a good story.
Yes, and I definitely feel like books, especially from like the older centuries, still have relevance today. And I feel like if I had a choice, I'd perform a monologue from even a book that's like been on like The Great Gatsby or like books from them, because they still hold like something that is still meant to be told, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's like, I remember when I wanted to do theater, someone had told me there's like theater books like in the library that you can check out. And those are like, those kind of helped me because I didn't know where to begin, you know, because people who don't know where to begin. So I definitely feel like that's what helps people get that balance. If there was a book that you could present, is there a book that you would choose?
A Fresh Off the Boat book by the guy who was in Fresh Off the Boat, the TV show, just because it's a very good book.
Yes. Is that modern or is that like older?
No, it's modern, but like it tells a story about like older generations and what it's like to be like a first gen and have immigrant parents.
So is it like a memoir, historian? Yeah. I love memoirs. Yeah. Because like these celebrities, you think they have this posh life, and then you read their books, you're like, wow, what they had to go through to get what they do have.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they're actually funny.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like monologues, I feel like the emotion is the number one aspect. You know, anyone can be given a line, but they can mean so many different things based on how you say it, based on how you act it out. Right. So it's like you can make something so boring or mundane into something so big. And I feel like that's beauty of being able to present and to be able to host these coffee houses every year.
Or that's why they have authors do book readings when they're selling their book, like so that voice really comes to life.
Yeah.
And now we do have like audiobooks, and it makes it an option for that voice to come to life. And poetry itself, going back to poetry, is always been meant to be read aloud, not just to read aloud.
I think public speaking also plays a role in how to. I think public speaking also plays a role in like how to be confident, and I think public speaking also plays a role in people's ability to like go up there in front of like a large scale audience and to be able to like have that kind of, it's almost like an ability, because like a lot of people can't do it, and a lot of people are like not as equipped to do that. Like I think public speaking public speaking, theater, like all kind of go hand in hand. Like the book is more like the source. Like a lot of people get that from like the book in itself. Yeah. And it's like, so reading alone is kind of like, it can be isolating sometimes because you don't have someone to dish it out or to kind of debrief with, you know? And what were you about to say?
I was going to say the thing with poetry and I think with books and movies, like nowadays when a lot of people lack empathy, I think that it gives people like a very good perspective of like what people are going through and how we can help them and how we can empathize with them, because we need a lot of that right now.
We definitely do.
Very true.
I feel like we need a lot of emotion and more like compassion, especially nowadays in the midst of everything going on.
Yeah, in the space in our country, like there's so much polarization happening, but if we take this time out to like really listen and hear someone else's perspective, that improves things.
Yes, because like hearing people out, understanding the different points of views, and just being able to kind of come together over the same story. I think similarities is where we also can like dish it out and just kind of like bond, find some relevance to bond over that with. Yeah. Definitely something that I hope continues on.
That's our plan.
Yeah. But
in fact, I was just talking to administration because I would love to do like just a big visual in the building, maybe in the LMC, just have pictures of kiddos that are presented, but then do a photo at the end where it's an empty photo with nobody at the mic, like who's going to be next. Just and that's the beauty of Coffee House. We have planned presenters, but what happens organically throughout the day is kids sit in the audience and they're like, I think I want to get up there. Yeah. And so from a teacher point of view, I always get a kid or two that comes up to me, I've never done something like that before, and I'm so happy I put myself out there, and I was so inspired about what happened. So who doesn't love those kinds of moments?
Yes. Yeah. And then it's like kids will see it from the next year be like, oh, I think I won. And then the tradition kind of like continues on, and that's the plan. That's like what everyone hopes to be, and I think that's the goal, and that's why it's been so successful over these years.
Yeah, I think poetry pushes people like to 100% authentically be themselves, because for a long time people had to hide themselves. I think writing gives people an outlet.
Definitely does. It definitely does, and giving people that outlet, giving people that time to be who they are and to show who they are, no matter if it's singing or dancing or acting, those are stuff that we can build on and we expand on, and it's what makes us us. And I totally agree with everything that you've been doing, and it's great. And
Thank you.
And I
appreciate your support
totally,
and promoting it more.
Yeah, I'm very dishing out. So everyone listening to this, go be in the coffee houses, because they're, it's a safe space. You can be yourself, and there's nothing you can lose. It's an experience that everyone deserves to listen to or even to be a part of. So
snaps for that.
Yes, snaps for that. But thank you both for being here today.
You are welcome.
It's been great, and I hope everyone listening, and I hope Ms. VanMilligen and Ruth, you have great days ahead of you.
Thank you.
And that's it. Thank you.
Go read a book, guys.